For the past 24 years, a lot of people have come to me with the same question. How can I make more money? The truth is, the answer lies in becoming more than just average. It's not simply about making money. It's about developing qualities that set you apart from others. Start by working on an above-average smile. Your smile is more powerful than you might think. It shows warmth and openness, making people feel comfortable around you. Next, bring more enthusiasm into your life. This means being genuinely excited about what you do, showing that you care deeply about your work and the people around you. Also, take a real interest in others. This goes beyond just saying hello or asking how someone is doing. It means truly connecting with people, showing that you care about them as individuals. And don't forget the importance of a strong handshake. It's surprising how many people overlook this simple gesture. A good handshake can make a lasting impression, showing confidence and respect. Pay attention to these small details, they really do matter. Some people might dismiss them as unimportant, but that's where they go wrong. They don't realize how these little things add up and contribute to your overall success. Now let's talk about intensity. If you want to win in life, you need to develop an above-average drive. This means going after your goals with more energy and determination than most people do. When you do this, you'll start to see real changes in your life. One of the most frustrating things is trying to land an above-average job with above-average pay without becoming an above-average person. When you expect more from life without putting in the effort to improve yourself, you set yourself up for disappointment. That's what we call frustration. So the key is to focus on becoming better, stronger, and more dedicated. When you do, the success and rewards you're looking for will follow. Mr. Shoaff gave me what was probably the most important piece of advice when we first met. He said, "Jim, if you want to live a wealthy and happy life, here's the key. Learn this lesson. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job." This idea of focusing primarily on self-improvement became a turning point in my life. During those early days of learning from Mr. Shoaff, I received many valuable lessons, but this one stood out the most. Mr. Shoaff was a man known for his kindness, but he could also be very straightforward. He had a unique way of asking questions that really made you think. One day, I was telling him about the difficulties I was facing and how things just weren't going my way. He listened patiently and then said, "Mr. Rohn, I've got the solution for you, but you need to pay close attention. When someone who is wealthy and happy gives you advice, you've got to listen." I took his words seriously. And not just that day, I kept listening closely to everything he said for the next 5 years. He told me, "Jim, even though we haven't known each other for long, I honestly believe that if you want things to improve in your life, you need to change." That wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear at the time, but it was the advice he gave me. He said, "For things to change for you, you've got to change. If you stay the same, nothing else will change." Before I met Mr. Shoaff, I used to think, I really hope things will get better. That was pretty much my only hope. I thought that if things didn't change, I would be in serious trouble. But over time, I realized that just hoping for change wasn't going to make anything better. Life has been following certain patterns for thousands of years. Just like the tides come in and go out, things happen in a cycle. What Mr. Shoaff taught me was that waiting and hoping for things to change wasn't enough. If I wanted real change, I needed to start with myself. By working harder on improving myself, I could influence the world around me. That lesson, simple as it was, had the power to transform my life, and it can do the same for anyone who takes it to heart. This pattern has been consistent for over 6,500 years based on recorded history, and it probably goes back even further. The reality is that things aren't likely to change dramatically anytime soon. Life tends to follow the same rhythms it always has. The day starts bright, and then what happens? It turns dark. This cycle of day and night has been repeating itself for over 6,000 years. So it's important not to be surprised or shocked by this natural pattern. Imagine someone seeing the sun go down and saying, "What's happening? Why is it getting dark?" That person must not have been around very long, because the sun sets around the same time every day. It brightens up, and then it gets dark. This is a regular cycle. After fall comes winter, right? Yes, winter. And how often does winter follow fall? Every single year without fail, for the past 6,500 years according to our records. So you see, this pattern is consistent, and it's not going to change. If you look back over those 6,000 years, it tells a story of opportunity mixed with difficulty. That's just how life is. It won't change. Winters can vary. Some are long, some are short, some are harsh, and some are mild. But one thing is for sure, winter always comes after fall. It's just the way things work, and that won't change. Sometimes you can figure things out, and everything goes smoothly like a calm sail on the water. But other times, things seem to go in reverse, and no matter what you do, it feels like you're getting nowhere. That's the pattern of life, and it's not likely to change. Understanding this pattern can help you navigate life with more ease. You won't be caught off guard when challenges arise because you'll know that they're just part of the cycle. And just like the seasons change, so do the situations in our lives. Knowing this allows you to prepare and adapt, making the most of the opportunities that come your way, even when they're mixed with difficulty. The man asks, well, if things aren't going to change, how will my life ever get better? The answer is simple. Your life changes when you change. It doesn't matter if I'm speaking to high school students or business leaders. My message remains the same. I always emphasize that the key to improving your life is through personal improvement. I often compare life to the changing seasons. Just like in life, business also goes through cycles. That's the first important point. Now, let me share the second part. While you cannot change the seasons, you can change yourself. This insight was incredibly valuable to me when I was a young man just starting out on my journey. Life and business are like the seasons. You cannot change them. It's impossible. Imagine trying to demand, I want 6 harvests, no winters, a couple of springs, and a few summers. It just doesn't work that way. The seasons unfold naturally according to their own rhythm, and you can't rearrange them to suit your preferences. They come as they are meant to come, and you cannot change that. So it's important to remember this. While you can't change the seasons, you have the power to change yourself. Among all living creatures, only humans have this incredible ability to make significant changes in their lives. Unlike other life forms that are guided solely by instinct and genetic code, humans have the unique capability to make decisions and take actions that can lead to completely different outcomes. For example, consider a goose in America. It can only fly south in the winter because that's how it's programmed. Why does the goose fly south in the winter in America? The answer is simple. It's a goose, and its instincts dictate that it flies south. It has no other option. But humans are different. We have the ability to choose to go north, south, east, or west. We can live one way for 5 years and then completely change our lifestyle for the next 5 years. This flexibility is a remarkable characteristic of human beings. We have the capacity to rewrite our life script and choose a totally different path whenever we wish. Humans can do that. I'm encouraging you to tap into your human capabilities and make the changes in your life that you desire. If you want to change your income, know that you have the power to do so. It's something you can do in any year you choose. The seasons will always be there, following their natural course, but your life doesn't have to stay the same. You have the ability to change, grow, and improve no matter what season you're in. You have the power to make incredible changes in your life. Remember, you're not like a tree stuck in one spot with no choice but to stay there. You're not a goose programmed to fly south every winter without any other option. As a human being, you have the unique ability to choose your path and change your direction whenever you decide. I'm telling you, at any moment you can say, I'm going to change my attitude, increase my income, learn new skills, and accomplish more than I ever had before. This is your natural right as a human being to make these changes in your life whenever and however you want. This is your gift as a human being. The ability to shape your life according to your desires. And that's how life improves, not by waiting for things to happen by chance, but by taking action and making changes. I used to have this funny habit of coming up with a list of excuses to explain why things weren't going well for me. You know how it is, sometimes you feel like you need to justify why you're not doing as well as you'd like. Otherwise, people might start thinking you're not trying hard enough. At the top of my list, believe it or not, was blaming the government. I had a speech ready claiming that the government was responsible for all sorts of things going wrong in my life. That was my number one excuse. I also used to blame the weather, traffic, my car, the manufacturers, the company I worked for, and even the company's policies. I had a whole list of reasons to explain why things weren't going the way I wanted them to. It was easier to point fingers at everything around me instead of looking at what I could change within myself. But once I realized that I had the power to change my own life, everything started to shift. Instead of relying on excuses, I started focusing on what I could do differently. That's when real progress began. You have the same power, and it's up to you to use it to make your life better. I used to blame all sorts of things for why I wasn't doing well. One of the top reasons on my list was the training program. I would say that it was because of the poor training that I wasn't succeeding. Taxes were another big one. I used to think, look at what they leave you with after they take everything. How do they expect you to do well when so much is taken away? Prices were also an easy target. I'd go to the supermarket with $20 and I'd come out with just a half-filled bag of groceries. That made it onto my list of excuses too. I'd also blame the economy and the community. I thought, well, these are good reasons for not doing well, right? I had a pretty solid list of excuses for why things weren't going the way I wanted them to. I'll never forget one day with Mr. Schoaf. He was a kind man, but he could also be very blunt when he needed to be. And this day was no different. And honestly, I'm glad he was blunt, because I learned a lot from it. On this particular day, he had this curious expression on his face, and he asked me, Jim, just out of curiosity, how come you haven't done well up until now? Now, I didn't want to look too bad in front of him, so I decided to go through my list of excuses, the same list I shared earlier, and sort of laid it all out for him. And he was very patient as I went through each excuse. As I went on about the training program, taxes, prices, the economy, and the community, Mr. Schoaf just listened. I thought I was making a pretty good case for myself, but little did I know that I was about to learn a valuable lesson. His patience allowed me to see that maybe the reasons I was giving weren't as solid as I thought. That conversation turned out to be a turning point for me, helping me realize that I needed to stop blaming everything else and start looking at what I could do to change my situation. He let me go through my entire list, talking about everything from the government to the weather and all the little things in between. I laid it all out, thinking I was making a solid case for why things weren't going well for me. After I finished, he took a moment and looked over my list very carefully. Then he said something that hit me hard. He said, Mr. Rohn, there's a major issue with your list. You ain't on it. That was a brilliant insight. A few months later, after I started working for him, I began to see the wisdom in what he said. I realized that holding on to my old list of excuses was doing me no good. So I tossed that list away and got myself a fresh piece of paper. On it, I wrote just one word: me. You see, I used to blame everything but myself. There's a powerful spiritual song in Black Heritage that goes, it's not my mother, nor my father, nor my brother, nor my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. That really makes you think. It's a reminder that sometimes we need to look inward and take responsibility for our own lives. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. What does it really take to start making changes tomorrow? I've learned that it's not just about making big statements or getting all pumped up with enthusiasm. Sure, enthusiasm is important, and it gets talked about a lot these days, but the truth is, it's not enough on its own to get the job done. After all the excitement, there are certain actions you must take if you want real transformation to happen. You might get all fired up about lifting 100 pounds, but when you actually get to the gym, that initial excitement fades and you realize you need something else. What you really need at that point is a different kind of enthusiasm, one that's rooted in discipline. Discipline is the key to sustaining your motivation and making lasting changes in your habits and actions. It's a major step toward human progress. This is something truly worth getting excited about, the excitement that comes from knowing you have the power to make yourself do the important things that lead to success. Now, think about it. What can you commit to doing starting tomorrow that would bring about a significant transformation in your life? Seriously, take a moment to think about it. That's exciting, isn't it? On any given day, you have the power to change the direction of your life. Consider this. Committing an act like murder can drastically change a person's life in an instant, and not in a good way. But you can also choose to commit a positive act, and that too can completely alter your life's path, only this time for the better. It's about making the choice to take control of your life and direct it towards something positive and meaningful. The power is in your hands to make that choice and change your life for the better, starting now. Now that's exciting. The exciting realization is that anyone, yes, literally anyone, has the power to make a positive change in their life. The question isn't about who can do it, because the answer is clear. Anybody can. The real question is, when can you do it? And the answer to that is simple: whenever you decide to start. Now, here's the key to discipline. Start with the small tasks. Get excited about those little daily routines and make it a point to tackle them right away. Why? Because those small disciplines are like the building blocks of success. They lay the foundation for handling bigger challenges down the road. It's like preparing for life's major hurdles. You need to get good at managing the smaller ones first. So focus on those little tasks. Get enthusiastic about completing them, and you'll find yourself better equipped to take on the bigger challenges life throws at you. Remember, it's the small steps that set the stage for conquering the big ones. Make a list of all the things you can do right now and get started on those tasks immediately. Train yourself to be disciplined in handling these tasks. Pay attention to the results. Build your skills and practice regularly. Why? Because it's like exercising your muscles. When you discipline yourself with the smaller tasks, you're essentially building up your strength and skills. So when life presents you with significant challenges, you'll be ready to face them head on. It's crucial to understand that if you don't manage the smaller tasks, you won't be prepared to handle the bigger ones when they come your way. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You can't reach the peak without first mastering the smaller hills. Another important factor in making a change in your life is self-motivation. This means finding the drive within yourself to get things done. We call it self-motivation because when you really think about it, that's the only kind there is. You're the one who has to inspire and push yourself forward because, in my experience, you can't change other people. Lord knows I've tried, but it doesn't work. People have to make the decision to change themselves. So the power to change your life is in your hands. Start small, build your discipline, and motivate yourself to keep moving forward. When you do that, you'll be ready for whatever life throws your way, and you'll be well on your way to making those positive changes a reality. You know, I've come to realize something important. Good people are made through training. They're found. You come across good people in life, you don't turn them into good ones through training. The real purpose of training is to identify those who already have the right qualities. Good people, the ones who already have what it takes, usually don't need a lot of guidance. They're self-motivated, disciplined, and ready to go. Now, if you find yourself constantly needing to train someone, giving them endless instructions, there's a good chance you might have the wrong person for the job. So the key to getting things done right isn't about how much training you give. It's about finding the right people from the start. That's what makes all the difference. And speaking of making a difference, let's talk about self-motivation. If you really want to change your life, you've got to rely on your own drive. It's so important not to wait around for someone else to come along and motivate you. If you're sitting there thinking, boy, if only somebody would come by and give me a push, then I'd get moving, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. What if that person never shows up? That's why you need a better plan for your life, one that depends on you and not on someone else. Here's something worth remembering. It's not what happens to you that determines the quality or the quantity of your life. What really matters is not the events themselves. You see, the things that happen in life happen to almost everyone, without exception. For example, the sun went down for all of us last night, a common event, something that happens to everyone. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes two people go through the exact same events, but one ends up rich while the other stays poor. Ever wonder why that happens? Well, it's not about what happens to you. It's all about what you do in response. Remember this phrase, it's not what happens, it's what you do. That's the key to changing your circumstances. The events that occur are pretty much the same for everyone. Life throws the same kinds of challenges at all of us. What makes the real difference is how you respond, what actions you take. You see, anything can happen in life. I've heard countless stories, and I've been through many experiences myself. We could all sit around and share stories all night long, couldn't we? Because in life, anything can happen. Have you ever come across Murphy's Laws? Murphy had these funny laws, and one of them goes like this. If anything can go wrong, it will. That's just one of Murphy's laws, and it's a reminder that life is unpredictable. But remember, it's not the unpredictability that matters. It's how you handle it that counts. Even though he wasn't one of the most optimistic speakers of his time, what he said still rings true, doesn't it? Anything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong. I've faced countless setbacks once. I even lost a couple of $1 million. And that was absolutely devastating. It took me a long time to recover from that blow. Life can throw some serious challenges our way, and it often takes a while to get back on our feet. Now, it might not have seemed like much to others, but it meant everything to me because it was all I had at the time. That's when things feel the heaviest, right? If you have 3 and lose 2, you're still okay. But when you lose it all, well, we've all been there, haven't we? It's just part of life's ups and downs. Anything can happen. Everything can happen. It's not just about what happens to you, it's about how you respond. Some people might say, you don't understand how many disappointments I've been through. But the truth is, everyone faces disappointment. It's not something that's only reserved for poor. It happens to everyone. The key difference is in how you handle it. It's not about blaming the weather or your circumstances. I used to think the weather controlled everything, but then I realized it rains on the rich too. So that excuse doesn't hold water. Let me share a story to illustrate this. Two men wake up one morning and it's pouring rain. The first guy looks out the window, sees the storm, and thinks, no way am I going out to make sales in this weather. So he stays home. On that same morning, the second guy looks out, sees the same storm, and says, wow, what a storm. He thinks, you know what? With weather like this, it's a perfect chance to go out and make sales. Most people will probably stay home, so I'll stand out. This just goes to show it's not about the circumstances. It's about what you choose to do with them. What shapes how your life turns out isn't just the events that happen. It's the actions you take in response. So here's an important question to think about. Starting tomorrow, what actions are you going to take to steer your life in a new and positive direction? Here's the truth. If you don't start taking action tomorrow to create a positive change, things will probably stay the same. And if you want a glimpse of what the next 5 years might look like, just take a good look at the last 5. Now, if we had a private conversation tonight, just the two of us, my personal advice to you would be this. For this year, dig deep within yourself and tap into those amazing human abilities you have. They're there, just waiting to be used. Then make the changes you want to see in your life. I'm challenging you to take action because you can change. If you're not satisfied with how things are, change them. If something doesn't fit your liking, change it. If it doesn't bring you joy, change it. And if it falls short of your expectations, change it. You have the power to make those changes, but you have to take action. You don't have to stay the same after tonight unless you choose to. Everyone has the potential to change. The real question is, will you? And here's another good question to ask yourself. We're all following someone's plan, but whose plan are you following? Who has influenced you to stick with the plan you're on right now? In 10 years, you'll definitely end up somewhere. The real question is, where? The exciting part is that anyone, if they choose to, can search for a solid plan, choose it, and start putting it into action. Time will keep moving forward, and before you know it, you'll find yourself in the future, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10. And if you start taking the right actions now, you could be driving what you want to drive, living where you want to live, wearing what you want to wear, and becoming who you want to become. But the time to start shaping the next 5 or 10 years is now. And who can do it? Anybody.